All right. Back to the future. Okay. Now, I always bet on the younger player, which doesn't necessarily work in this event. The old people, older than me, Krasenkov, what's his name? Pia Kramling, but what's the guy's name? Georgiev. Yeah, Georgiev, Krasenkov, and Kramling are all way older than me, and they all won. So what do I know? Now, Firouzja's always the youngest until now. And now he's playing a younger player who's 15. And Firouzja likes messy positions, and most super GMs do not like messy positions. They like solid advantage, no weaknesses, like Magnus and Geary and so forth. And there are some top players who don't mind a mess, like Mamadjarov and Nepomniachtchi. And Firouzja likes it when it's messy. Fortunately, I think his opponent so dumb. This is embarrassing. Who's the guy who's not messy? The other guy? I know his name, but I can't think of his name. Starts with a C? Who's the other guy? Ronaldo. Yeah, I got it before I read it. Yeah. So even though Firouzja likes it messy, Sindarov likes it Ronaldo. Now, Black played excellently here because he's trying to advance on the king's side, which he did, and now he played f3, and the engine says if he doesn't play f3, White's better. But this vacates this diagonal and the f4 square, so Black can activate his pieces. And while White is dealing with that, Black can start taking the queenside pawns because White can't defend everywhere. f3 is just a great move. Could have played it earlier too. And so when you're playing somebody younger than you who also likes a lot of action, normally when you're sort of a brash, young, likes complex positions, likes when it's messy, that's a new thing for the super GMs. So when Geary and Carlson and sometimes Wesley and Karyakin and so forth, when they're playing, they like when they're slightly better, the guy has no counterplay, and they strangle them. That's what they like. And so that's why the Karpov-Kasparov matches were so good. That's what Karpov did to people, and Kasparov was sacrificing and calculating, and that was a good style against Karpov because he was good at it. And so Firouzja's style is really good against super GMs because they're not used to seeing somebody play sort of wild and crazy who's good at it, like Shirov and Morozevich used to be, although Shirov is still in the World Cup. But anyway, but Sindarov is like wild and crazy. That's just my game. So he literally doesn't care because he's 15. He's like, yeah, we can play wild and crazy. I played wild and crazy when I was 15. I just was really bad. Still play wild and crazy. Okay, knight takes, knight h5, putting it in h. Here comes the knight. Knight g5, he's like, what about my knight? And you always want to play knight e6 in a King's Indian if it's possible. Usually it's not. And the reason it's possible is the queen's not on d8, the pawn's not on h6, and the bishop's not on c8. So the formula is there to play knight e6. Knight f4, defending e6, more importantly, attacking the queen. And the queen would like to stay on this pawn, so Black doesn't take this pawn, but that's not possible. He's got to move his queen away from the pawn, and he does, always retreat. And when we first started looking at the game, which was here, Danya thought Black was a pawn up, then he realized he wasn't, then we realized that Black sacrificed with f3. But I mean, the queen and the knight are really excellent together here. And these pawns are all weak. I'm attacking them, and this bishop is, usually that's the good bishop, and this is the bad bishop, but this bishop does nothing. This bishop needs to be on this diagonal. Yeah, this is no good. Okay, he attacked the queen, which is just desperate, but he can't take this pawn because this is hanging. He doesn't want to allow all these forks. The engine says rook b1's the best move. That's a very hard move to play for a human. Your rook's on the half-open file, and you go here in total defensive mode. The human doesn't want to do that, especially Firouzja. So he plays active, sacking a pawn, and then he's going to have to sack a lot more pawns. Rook c2 looks like he blundered his a-pawn, but as Danya pointed out, knight e2 check is annoying. And if you play a normal move that stops it, like rook e1, that knight d3 is annoying. So rook c2 is actually the engine move. And then he loses another pawn. And then I pointed out 3 passed pawns. What else? Pancake Gremlin subscribed. Good. Good. Let's see. Pam. Go Pam. All right. I'm way behind in the chat. Jesus Hooves 2. Can you explain the except for one thing reference? I probably didn't make it up, but I don't know where I got it from. I don't remember where I got it from. Either I made it up or I have no idea where I stole that from. So I don't know. Go Zlatan. Yep, go Georgiev. Isn't Alireza super GM? I don't know, maybe. Guess. What happens if G3 stopping knight F4? G3 here, before you play knight G5. The engine says here, which threatens the knight, and the knight can't go here anymore. And you can't play king here because knight F4 check. The engine says G3 is playable. It says you should play this now. It's not what he wants to play. G3 is probably better than what he did. Then here, and they give some long, crazy line. Check. King here. Check. Never play F3. This check. Jesus Christ. Takes. The knight's trapped. And you can attack it again. And somehow King H3 is equal. What? Why is that equal? Queen H6, threatening rook F4, bishop F6, G5. And now black's better. And G3 is a move, but it weakens the king a little bit. And then after queen here, you can't stop knight F4 anyway. Okay. But it would work out a lot better than this. This is no good. Yeah. Now remember, they're playing, rapid and blitz and bullet, so they're not going to play perfectly. All right. And then this is just silly because he's down so many pawns. And Danya was shocked that knight E2 check wasn't played. He couldn't believe it. I didn't say anything about why I wouldn't play knight E2 check, but I was just thinking he would take it and then put his knight on E6 at some point. And then and black's winning, but maybe he just didn't want the knight to go to E6. So I don't know if maybe he didn't see knight E2 check. I don't know. But he played here, which is fine. And yeah, and black's just completely winning here. This is resignable, but can't resign because it's a rapid game. And we talked about bishop E7 because I was like, why didn't he play that? And it's because the bishop gets trapped. Like rook here, rook here. So, and we were both impressed that he took on H4. The Soviet school of chess is like, don't make a move like that. You're completely winning, just win. Don't play a move that's tricky. And it's true. I mean, black could just play B5 and win. So like if Karpov was black, he wouldn't do that. If Kasparov was black, when he was good, he would do that. See, when Kasparov was the best player in the world, he would go here and analyze dozens of variations. Now, Kasparov would still play here because he wouldn't see the pawns defending it. So he plays the same move, but for different reasons. Ooh, Perrier. Thanks, Pancake Gremlin. Yeah, I know I stole it from somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, tie-break games get faster and faster. That's correct. Yeah, didn't Lenny say... Lenny said something in one of the Simpsons where he said, you know, I would do this, this, and this, except for one thing. I don't want to. I think it was Lenny. Yeah. It's WSK. We missed him, except for one thing. Me and Kasparov are like that, son. So this will be interesting. If Kasparov, and I walked into each other somewhere, would he know it's me? Good question. I think, yeah. I think he would. I think he knows who I am. Yeah. I've analyzed with him before on stream, and we talked about one of the games I played once, and we've had dinner with other people 7, 8 times. So I think he knows who I am. I mean, I was the resident GM for a long time in St. Louis, and, he's good friends with Rex, so, yeah. I think he actually does know who I am. Crazy. Go Kasparov. He's probably suing us right now because of the videos we made about him. Yeah. Kasparov, worst coach ever. Go Farnsley. Come on, Farnsley. Don't you see the backward pawn? No. Did Kasparov train Magnus? They worked together for a while. Yeah. That's correct. Okay, so bishop takes h4. John, you like that move a lot. Now, the only reason you wouldn't play bishop h4 is you think gh is a good move. If white doesn't take the bishop, then you play bishop takes h4. And he did not take the bishop. And rightfully so. So let's take the bishop because that's the only thing we care about. Now, what's funny is we were talking about queen takes h4, and then after king f1, queen g4, and the engine says plus a billion. The engine says black's winning. But there's a more accurate way of playing. Check first. You can't go to the h file because rook takes mate. And then here, threatening mate. And now you know what it's like when God has a gun. Yeah, that's it. The only way to stop mate in 1 is to move your f pawn. So your king has f2. And irrespective of whether you play f3 or f4, queen f3, rook h1 mate. Doesn't matter if you play f3 or f4. So yeah, that's just mate. It's just checkmate. Now queen h4 does win, but this is mate, so that's better. $20. Will Alexenko beat Praggnanandhaa? Will Georgiev beat Korobov? Korobov's a favorite, and Alexienko Praggnanandhaa is 50-50. Either one could win. I'd probably pick Praggnanandhaa if I had to pick somebody. I don't have to. Georgiev could be Korobov, but probably not. Probably not. Yeah. What's the difference between both lines? This one's checkmate and this one's not. This one just wins. The difference is, in this position, we can play bishop h6 and stop the mate. In this position, bishop h6 does not stop the mate because the rook already went forward. Black's winning in any case. So he actually played the best move, queen d1. He traded queens so he wouldn't get mated. The problem is he's down 1 billion pawns. Now, there's something I want to explain to you, and after I'm done explaining it to you, in 5 minutes, it's like I didn't tell you. I've told all of my students this 1 billion times, and there's nothing. There's no retention. Yeah, that's why I stopped teaching. Now, I was in a college class before you were born, and we were talking about different belief systems. So, for example, if you're told something when you're a very small child, and that's reinforced in you for a very long time, it's hard to change. It's your core belief. And if that doesn't happen, there's stuff you don't know. Then when you're like 25, 30, some lunatic tells you some nonsense, you may or may not believe it. But if you were told that nonsense when you were 3 years old until you were 20, and you believed it for those 17, 18 years, it's hard to, So when I teach chess and I tell a student that everything they do is wrong, they go, okay, then they keep doing it because that's what they do. Me telling them not to do it, they literally don't care. That's what they do. So what happens here, there's several things that lower rated players don't understand about positions like this. Okay, one of them is white's going to lose. And what I mean is a lot of the gawking rebel on the internet who somehow have made Firouzja a deity, they're like, Firouzja is the world champion, Firouzja this, and Jebediah that, and Ezekiel this. All they talk about is how great Firouzja is because Firouzja plays good blitz and bullet on the internet, and that's all they know, right? They're looking at the shadows on the walls, and they're like, Firouzja, 1 minute internet, that's their whole world. They don't know anything else. And so this is the real world. In the real world, when it's not a 1 minute game and your opponent has 3 connected passed pawns and they're a grandmaster, then you lose. So it's 100% black's going to win here. I don't care who white is. Okay, if black is a decent player, black wins. Okay, if I'm black against Carlsen and I don't win this, I don't play chess anymore. I mean, this is ridiculous not to win. You have 3 passed pawns, and you're up 3 pawns. So this is a slow game, and I'm playing Carlsen. He resigns with white. He wouldn't resign in a 10-minute game or a 5-minute game, but if I had an hour on my clock, he'd resign, because this is ridiculous. Now, that's one thing you guys don't understand. You think when somebody is so good, they can win these lost positions or draw them, because you don't understand what different kinds of lost positions are. You just do what the engine tells you. This position's +4 for black, and there are positions that are +4 for black where I don't beat Carlsen because it's too complicated and I lose. But this isn't one of them. Okay, and here's the second thing that makes all chess coaches really angry. If you have a chess coach and you want to make them really upset, this will do it every time. Every time, if you want to. If you're like, haha, I'm going to show my chess coach. You're black, your opponent's 200, 300, 400 points higher rated than you, and you agree to a draw. You're like, well, I'm winning, but my opponent's 2100 and I'm 1650, so I can't beat him, so I agreed to a draw. And that nothing makes a coach madder than that. If you want to make your coach mad, do that. When you're totally winning and there's no way you won't win, agree to a draw. And then say, oh, my opponent's higher rated than me. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing commentary or I'm streaming or I'm watching a stream or something, the gawking rabble, which is you say things like, well, this guy's losing, but, that's Geary and his opponent is, somebody who's not Geary, somebody who's like 26, 30 FIDE. So Geary. And I'm like, Geary's going to resign. Like, what are you talking about? And there was a very famous episode of this, basically everything I'm talking about, when Gawain Jones in Vaikanze about 3 years ago, I'm guessing it was 3 years. It could have been 10 years. It could have been 2 years. I don't know. He played Magnus in a dragon, and Magnus hung a piece. And I was doing commentary at the time, I think on my own channel. And I was like, well, Magnus hung a piece. And the people in the chat are like, no, Magnus wouldn't hang a piece. It's a sacrifice. And I'm like, Magnus hung a piece. Like, that's not a sacrifice. And then eventually Magnus won down a piece for nothing. It's a dragon. It's complicated. Gawain Jones made like 4 mistakes. And then when the game ended, the Norwegian commentator who didn't play chess, she said, was that a sacrifice or did you blunder? And he just laughed. Like, I blundered a piece. I didn't see it. It doesn't make any sense to sacrifice the piece that way. It was ridiculous. And the reason people thought he sacrificed a piece is because he's Magnus. So he wouldn't blunder a piece. So he sacrificed it. And then when he won, they were like, see? Sacrificed a piece, then he won. And then me and the other top players who were doing commentary were rolling our eyes because we know he blundered a piece. He just won anyway. And that's something you guys don't understand. You think when somebody is a big reputation and famous, that the position doesn't matter. It matters a lot. So this is just him not resigning because, there's both sides have very little time on their clock. But it literally doesn't matter. So the rest of the game is just silly. There's no play for white. He's just down 1,000,000 pawns. He has no pawns. All right, then he resigned. I mean, it was just silly playing on, but, and there's different kinds of winning positions. There's winning positions where it's 100% you're going to win. Then there's winning positions where if you play really accurately, you're going to win. Those might not win. This requires no accuracy. You just make legal moves until the guy resigns. So that was amazing, and here's why it was amazing. Firouzja didn't have a big advantage and then make a one-move blunder. That's a very common way for a higher-rated player to lose to a low-rated player. Higher-rated player plays better because he's better. Then he makes a one-move blunder because he missed something, and then he can't recover. Okay, and I could beat any grandmaster with that method. The grandmaster plays better than me, and then they miss something, and they make a one-move blunder. Now I'm winning, and then I don't mess it up. That's how I would beat a higher-rated player. That wasn't what happened. What happened in this game was Firouzja got crushed. That's what happened. If you play the game over, you're like, well, black's a better player than white. And that's an unusual thing because black is much lower rated and he's 15. So you wouldn't expect that he's the superior player. I mean, he's probably not, but like when you see a final position like this, you're like, Jesus, So I'm really proud of my students when I had students when they won games like that, where they just rolled over their opponent. And, sometimes when my students beat higher rated players, my student wasn't playing well, then their opponent hung mate and won or hung a queen. Now my student won. But this is just, he's showing dominance. And that's how you want to win. You want to win because you're the better player, not because, Firouzja beats you 9-1, and the one game he lost, he hung a queen. And it was batting practice, and he swung and missed once. That's not how you want to win. You want to win because it looks like you're better than him. And then the guy doesn't want to play you anymore. You're lower rated, and the guy crushes you. And you're like, well, I don't want to play lower rated players who crush me. Truth hurts. Yeah. Yeah, kids are good. God damn.